Today is February 23rd, 2023. Yesterday, I started talking about trust and how it's super important for relationships and building connection with other people. And so today, I want to go a little bit deeper on that topic. So I already mentioned how acts of vulnerability, where we entrust ourselves to someone else in some way and maybe risk pain or hurt in some way by making ourselves vulnerable, that creates connection between people and deepens and strengthens relationships. I also mentioned how when people violate our trust, that causes wounding, which can heal but leaves these scars there that make it more difficult for us to connect with people in the future. And most of this wounding seems to happen in our childhood. For a lot of people anyways. It can happen at any stage in life. But a lot of us, the most significant violations of trust seem to happen when we're children. And that might just be because when we're children, we're extremely vulnerable. We have to rely on other people for our survival. And so when those people don't take care of us, they violate our trust and it causes wounding. And in my own life, I've experienced quite a bit of this. I had some people when I was a child who were supposed to be looking out for me and betrayed me in massive ways. When I was in middle school, I was bullied very frequently, and it caused me to have sort of this distrust of my peers and just other issues. I was made fun of for the way I interacted with girls, which then translated to having low confidence when I was interacting with women later in life. So there were all these different situations where people violated my trust, and I put up walls to protect myself in that moment. And that's okay. That's how you get by. That's how you survive. But eventually those walls don't serve you. They actually block you off from creating connections with other people. And so if you've built up those walls and you can look back at your past and see where situations where people betrayed you or betrayed your trust, and you can figure out what those were and then kind of break down some of those walls, it can help you create deeper connections with people in your present life. And it's also important to then protect yourself from this happening anymore. And so the way we do that is by establishing boundaries. Now, this is tricky because you don't want the boundaries to be walls in themselves. Boundaries, at least good ones, are supposed to provide you with freedom and safety to interact with other people without getting hurt, but still allowing for that connection. So an example I like to give is the lines, the yellow and white lines on a road or a highway that tell you what to do with your car. So these are boundaries, right? They tell you to stay on this side of the road or that side of the road, but they don't wall you off from doing so. They don't prevent you from driving your car at all. They actually give you more freedom because you can travel with speed without having to worry about hitting other cars. If those lines weren't there, there would be chaos. People would be ramming into each other all the time. There'd be gridlock traffic that no one would know how to solve. But because there's those lines there, you can travel freely all over the country, and it creates this freedom to be able to drive your car. And so if we can apply that to relationships, good boundaries and relationships shouldn't block you from being vulnerable with people, but they should also protect you. So you could think of physical intimacy, for example. I've already mentioned how being vulnerable with someone creates this connection and creates these bonds with them. Well, when you engage in physical intimacy with someone, you're being vulnerable with your very body, your very self. And it creates very strong and deep connections and bonds with people. And if there's no protection there, and those bonds get broken, that creates deep wounding, and it makes it hard to connect with people in the future. So, for example, this is why one reason why sex in the context of marriage is a good idea. Now, I realize divorce rates are super high and there's all kinds of problems in modern society, but ideally, marriage is there to protect those bonds. You make a commitment to someone for your entire life. So you know when you give them yourself to them in sex, those bonds aren't going to be broken because that person is going to be with you. And again, I know this is an ideal situation and it doesn't always work out like that, but it's a lot less risky to engage in sex in marriage than it is outside of marriage because of those vows and the commitments that are made there. And this can be with any sort of thing. Maybe it's a smaller level of commitment for something that's more not as emotionally charged as sex is. So maybe it's just kissing. Like, okay, I'm gonna wait to kiss my girlfriend until we're officially dating and we've made a commitment. So there's different ways to do this, and you can set those boundaries at different spots depending on your circumstances. But boundaries are something that help us to connect with people and be vulnerable while also protect ourselves from being wounded. So that's all I got on trust for today. Maybe I'll do more with it in a future video. Again, if there's anything you want me to talk about, anything you'd like to know about me, or just any ideas you have for other videos, feel free to drop them in the comments. But I hope that was beneficial for you. That's all for today. Peace.